1 hour together for this in-depth session, which is part of our collective inquiry on cultivating conscious local communities and cultures for regeneration. This is led by the UNDP convened Conscious Food Systems Alliance. We focus on the role of what we call inner capacities for regenerative food systems. And we have launched this collective inquiry back in April. And ever since, I think this is the third in-depth sessions where we go deep into some specific methodologies. So today we will we'll have the chance to hear from a comprehensive team of Opportunity International, including Genzo Yamamoto, Director of Knowledge Management, Mary Pat McVeigh, Senior Researcher and Knowledge Manager, Mitis Machado from Colombia, Director of Operations, and Richard Chongo from Malawi, the Country Director. So they will share with us their experience with this holistic development training, an innovative value-based training system that has proven to be successful in helping local communities to embrace a regenerative culture. So we'll see that this course is structured in 24 lessons across 5 life dimensions: personal well-being, family well-being, financial well-being, community well-being, and environmental well-being. So they will we will dive deep with them today. But before doing that, I will offer a short centering practice, as we always do in our events in CoFSA. It's part of the culture we want to promote. So I invite you for a few minutes to take a comfortable position while seated with your feet on the ground, and just be able to feel the sensations in your body. Contact with the ground, contact with the chair, the clothes, the sensation on your skin of the clothes, maybe the sensation of your hands on your knees, for example, or your legs. Just pay attention to your breathing. When I'm breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. And when I'm breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. We're just enjoying our breathing. Just creating the space to check in with ourselves, how we are doing with our bodies. We have any tensions, or with our feelings. How has been so far the day for us? With our breathing, we can calm our feelings. We can smile to our feelings. And we can notice, with what kind of ideas or expectations we are coming to this call, and try to cultivate an open mind, a willingness to listen and learn from each other. And be able also to be happy for the great work that is being done in this important field by Opportunity International, as we will hear now. Thank you, and over to you, Genzo.
Thank you for that, Thomas. All right. Okay, so I should probably share my screen. Hello, everyone. Let me get that going. Okay. Can people tell me if this is showing?
Yes.
Okay.
I can see.
Okay, great. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Thomas, Noemi, CoFSA, for the opportunity to share our experience. Some of you may have had a chance to hear me give a brief description before, but this time I have colleagues who will be able to go deeper than I was able to in the past. So I'm very pleased to have my colleagues join me. And they will be able to speak in ways that they will know certain areas better than I do. So, but in advance, let me just note that there's certain portions that I will repeat since I tried to capture some of the gist of it before. So. I will begin by introducing the journey, look at some of our key starting points. Perhaps this will prove interesting and useful to you. And then I have my colleagues touching on different aspects, engaging heart and mind, a different framework, seeing positive outcomes, the M&E portion, Malawi, and an example, and then stories of change. So with that, I will start. I thought it might be useful for people who are thinking this way to see how multiple starting points there are. And that would be true for you with your respective organizations, but it's certainly true for us. So I'm not going to go into detail here, except to introduce to you our organization. Our organization tends to take it's a poverty alleviation organization, and our main approach has been to focus on different sectors and try to address the unique challenges of different sectors. We also started from the concept, Opportunity International has historically Christian roots. Of course, we serve all people, regardless of religious traditions of our clients. And of course, even among staff, you do not need to be a Christian in order to be on our staff. But historically, the organization has Christian roots. And so here, we tapped into kind of Christian theological concept of shalom. And the idea that shalom, which in English tends to be translated as peace, is a much richer and deeper concept in Hebrew than in English. Shalom talks about people being in rich, joyful, fruitful relationships with God, with self, with fellows, with nature. And so in that sense, the biblical concept of shalom is actually very rich, very holistic, very multidimensional. And I wanted to, and so in that sense, the center circle presents God's relationship with self, with others, and with the environment. And sometimes for people who are not used to using religious language, I can couch it in terms of capital, human capital, social capital, physical capital, but also spiritual capital. But the curriculum, as we explored what the curriculum should be, we looked at the lives of the clients we served, and we ended up unwrapping this into 5 dimensions, as Thomas mentioned, but also we added 1 dimension called foundations. So we start with foundations, and then we go to personal, family, community, environmental, financial well-being. You don't need to read all the fine print here. I just wanted to mention that this concept of shalom coming out of the Christian tradition is not something that has been produced simply by Western theologians. In fact, non-Western theologians have done a better job of unwrapping this concept. And sometimes I feel that Western Christianity or American Christianity has lost sight of this theological principle. But this also aligns quite well with other emphases, such as by Amartya Sen talking about how we need to understand poverty multidimensionally. And it also, the more recent, the Human Flourishing Program at Harvard, that's talking about multidimensional aspects that need to be paid attention to if we want humans to flourish. Here again, I won't go into all the details. If there is interest, I hope this deck can be made available to people and you can read it. All I wanted to say here was, as we started the development of this training, we did studies. We studied different studies of training because sometimes trainings have a very bad reputation for not being effective. And we found that training programs that focus only on knowledge transfer or tends to focus on what the institution wants for the client instead of what the clients want for themselves, or understand behavior change as just being unidirectional tends to not work. And then there are different kinds of trainings that can be shown to work, that have been proven to work. And so we paid attention to these studies. The more the program is client-focused, the more effective it is. Another thing is that, especially in international development and in the area that opportunity tends to work, which is financial behavior, it's easy to forget the importance of soft skills. So values, such as hope or sense of purpose or sense of dignity and self are just as important as economic skills in helping people improve their lives. This can be seen in the example of a graduation program known to be effective with people who struggle with ultra poverty or extreme poverty. But here again, we also looked at various studies that show that holistic approaches are in fact more successful. Another starting point, which is kind of captured in this comment, is that spirituality is central in many people's lives around the world. But Western development efforts have often been completely ignorant or avoided this aspect of people's lives, and it can actually make programs less effective. And then this also is quite aligned with the recent emphasis, perhaps over the last decade, on human-centered design. Human-centered design has focused on trying to understand how people view and experience the world themselves. This cartoon shows 2 executives of a food company saying, "Why isn't our food brand showing up in this consumer's brain? She's loyal to our brand, but when you look at her brain, what she's thinking about, she's only thinking about her family, her career, her dog, her what's going on." And it just shows how organizations seeking to do good can begin to lose sight of what the clients are experiencing. And then finally, This also aligns quite well with various adult education theories. Adults actually learn very differently from children. And they need to be taught or facilitated to change behavior and to think about it in different ways. And what we drew from this was what we really want is a facilitated process, not an old school lecturer or trainer. We want real stories and real local experience to come up in the lessons. We don't want to focus just on knowledge transfer, but on attitudes and skills change that can then lead to behavior change. We want to be flexible and customizable. We want lessons to be customizable according to client needs and to the culture. And then we want to recognize the complexity in the realm of values. Okay, so those were the starting points for our exploration. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Pat.
Okay, thank you, Genzo. I'm going to talk about engaging the heart and mind in our training, which is called Pathways to Wellbeing. And I want to illustrate how some of the concepts that Genzo was talking about come alive in our training itself. So we started out with 24 themes, which were actually emerged from research that we did, that's story capture research. So we went around and videoed and captured stories from the people that we wanted to work with. And these are some of the themes that came out. We organized them into 6 modules linked to the dimensions of Shalom. These are not meant to be in-depth modules, rather just to get people started on their own development path. But at the same time, they do stimulate awareness, attitude change. There's some knowledge and skills in each one, and each module is designed to stimulate behavior change. So even though it's not in depth, it's designed to stimulate people to start their journey in these different areas. And then each module is based on several values that underpin the module and that are used to motivate people around those module topics and around those objectives. Next slide, Vincent. So here you can see some of the themes that make up each one of the modules. I don't expect you to read every one, but just to get an idea that there are these different topics underneath here. And one of the things I wanted to understand is, or to highlight, is that the financial well-being topics are different than our typical, than Opportunity's typical financial literacy class, which would focus a lot more on how to open a bank account and how to handle loans and how to apply for a loan and things like that. So some of those themes are there, but it's a very different kind of a training than we would typically give. Okay, Genzo. Yeah, so I want to give you an example of the objectives of the module so you can also see how these objectives, integrate values and integrate this alternative approach to training that Genzo's been talking about. So in module 1, the foundations module, participants will develop a greater sense of self-worth, strengthen their feelings of hope, increase their resilience, and develop a vision for the future based on their understanding of their purpose in life. So when we interview clients afterwards, their testimonials then reflect these objectives. So you'll hear them talking about how they have much more hope than they used to have. They feel better about themselves, that nobody has recognized their need to have a purpose in life. And this is the first time they've really sat and thought about, what it is their purpose is. So, yeah. So you'll see some of these testimonials later in the presentation. Next slide. So, yeah. So this is the structure of a module. And we use the same structure for every module, and that's part of what makes it easy for the facilitators to absorb and use again and again, because they've got the same structure every time. The core of the curriculum are these stories. So we rely on the stories that we captured during our research to form the core of the training. And so the story is shared, and then it's talked about, and then it's practiced in the sense of people go into small groups to talk about how the story impacts their lives, and how they might change their lives as a result of thinking about the story. And then that story capture, the story methodology, is bolstered by these other sections. And I'll explain the purpose of these other sections in the next slide. So each of the sections has a behavior change function that really gets at this alternative training method. So with the welcome and introductions and the warm-up, clients experience respect. It respects the client experience. The learnings are grounded in their personal and shared experiences. In the story capture, these reflect on real situations. And the whole thing is participatory and experiential and fun. There's good visuals, there's games and activities. And then when we do the Let's Remember, we talk about the values, and that's where we have kind of a reflection that I'll share with you. But we go beyond knowledge and skills to attitudes. And then all of this is designed to generate behavior change. And the focus is strongest on the home practice, where people are given an assignment, which if they're literate is written, and if they're not literate is verbal. But to practice how the lessons and the attitudes and the inspiration that they've gotten from the training, how that can help them change their lives. So I just want to emphasize, and we'll actually see one of these stories later on, that the sessions are based on real stories, and they're carefully captured to touch the heart and the mind. And then we have careful questions that are standard questions, but they're carefully crafted for the facilitator to help move the conversation from what did you see in the story, what did the client do to make their life different or to change their situation? And now what do you think about how that applies to your situation? And then in one part of the closing for each module, we have this reflection that helps people connect the lesson to their deeper values tradition. So this could be Christian, Muslim, or cultural traditions. And it helps people link up with their values framework. Okay, so with that explanation of how the curricula works in terms of, being a more values-based curriculum, I'm going to turn it over to Richard to talk about the positive outcomes that we're seeing and to talk about the Malawi experience. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary. So I'll focus so much on the practical experience after implementing the pilot in Malawi. What we noted was that from the past years, when we implemented the training interventions, we really saw that the Shalom type of training was very different, because it is not just a matter of depositing knowledge, that someone is like a student of knowledge and someone is there receiving, but it really focuses on behavior change, making sure that there are certain skills, attitudes, knowledge, and awareness that have to change in the process. So the way we implement our activities and the way we we deliver the trade to the participants, it is in a way that it is more participatory, that the participants are encouraged to bring in their experience in a discussion way, that they can also share the knowledge. So you are not only there to transfer knowledge to another person, but you're also there to learn as you teach. So we bring in more of a version that you are there as a discussion, you are there as a to chat, to make sure that you can also help each other in a way that both of you, as you are going out of that room or the meeting, then everybody benefits from the interaction that you have had. Next slide, Kenzo. Yeah, so we have seen that the way we designed the training manuals was very rich in terms of the content, the pictures, the videos, and also because we are working in different countries, in different contexts, we also have different languages so that the people that we're working with can really benefit from the content that we have. When we started implementing the program, we wanted to make sure that whatever we are doing would make sense and would also give some kind of satisfaction with the people that we're working with. So from the start, we designed the pre and post test or an assessment to make sure that as they go through the process, they can really see that they're getting the kind of intervention and satisfaction from the intervention. So the participants would rate themselves depending on the objective of the module that we're working on. Then they would also make sure that they can move just from knowing to something that really can change, can see that it has really affected their behavior, their attitude, their skills in the end. And we see that from the this type of an assessment, it was really designed for low literacy levels. So whether you know how to read or you don't know how to read, whether you know how to write or you don't know how to write, you are able to use the self-assessment. So just a quick description of the picture that we see that the picture would show that at first you are just focusing on the awareness. Do you know, for example, a bicycle? Then they know the bicycle, then they feel good, or like it changes the attitude about the bicycle. Then they are now able to ride or use the bicycle, and up to the point that they can now apply it in different contexts and also in different circumstances. So basically, we want to make sure that as the participants are going through this process, they are able to know that, okay, I'm moving from this stage, like maybe a much lower stage, to something that is a bit of a higher stage in the process of taking part in the intervention. So as we continued, we have really seen that we wanted to make sure that there is a vehicle through which we can now take this intervention. We noted that working with the churches was one of the best vehicles that would really make us deliver what we wanted to deliver and achieve the goal that we wanted, because like the churches are everywhere in the communities, and most churches would have a church and society component. They know that they meet the people on a specific day, share the word of God, but they also have that kind of compassion and make sure that the people that they are working with, they also go through life in a better way. So working with churches and seeing the impact that this intervention would have, most of the churches really wanted to work with us to make sure that they can also take this intervention to the community. We identified church volunteers working with the church leadership. We trained them to make sure that they can also train the community members, both the members that are part of the church itself and also just the members of the community, so they can also benefit from this. Apart from the churches, we also worked through savings groups. So from the savings groups, they meet regularly. In Malawi, they meet on weekly basis. Then we would go and also deliver the training to the members. We also saw that there are a number of challenges as well. For example, from the training materials that we have like the graphics, the videos, which would make it a bit difficult to have those resources in the rural areas or excluded areas. So those were some of the challenges, but we would still find ways of going around those challenges. Like, for example, working with the volunteers to help them to be better storytellers. So in a case that they cannot show the video, then the volunteer would narrate the story to the participants, then go through the vision as well. Looking to the future, we also see that we can continue working with service groups, the churches. We're also implementing the Shalom program into the poverty graduation program. We implement poverty graduation program, working with households that are living in ultra poverty to help them to move out of ultra poverty into other higher levels of resilience and the livelihood sustainability. As you have seen from Gezo's presentation, we do not only focus on churches, but we can also move into other religious traditions, because we know that this intervention would really benefit a lot of people. We have seen that there are a number of benefits, especially looking at the things that the participants that I've worked with told us. I will show you the results of the study or the research that we did in terms of the satisfaction levels for Malawi. But I'll also briefly share about Colombia. I know that my colleague Mincy will talk about Colombian context very soon. But we saw that as we continued with the modules, you see that Genzo and Meripat mentioned that we have 6 modules, but for Malawi, we only focused on 2 modules. That's the foundation and the financial well-being. We have seen that all the participants really showed that they were satisfied and they have really seen the change through the training that they participated in. And also for Colombia, we have seen that there has been a positive impact from the pre-test and the post-test, because after going through the training, they really see that something has really changed. For example, how they felt wealth, hope, the hope, and also resilience on their part. So I will just show you a brief video from Malawi that I think then I will give the floor to my colleague Mitzi to continue, then we can get some comments and some questions from the group. Thank you.
Nalanga ndine maibera nduna ndine mmodzi mwa azimayi amene tiphunzira maphunziro a Shalom kuno ku Chimwankunda kwa African continent. Phindu limene ndapezamo ineyo mu maphunziro amenewa ndi chiyembekezo, kulimba mtima ndi chikhulupiriro. Chinanso ndichonena kuti masomphenya tinalibe, timangopanga business chimbulimbuli, kusunganso sitimadziwa kusunga, timangoona ngati business iliyonse imayambira ndi ndalama yayikulu. Koma malingana ndi mmene atiphunzitsira mawikisi amene wawa, taphunzira kuti yaying'ono yomweyo tikozopanga nayo chinthu. Nalanga ndine kusunga, timasunga 100 kwacha kuisunga, moti ine panopo ndasunga 5 pa milungu 5, sindikhala chimodzimodzi ikamatha miyezi 2. Ndasunga ndalama yokwanira 2.8 pa milungu imene iyi ndatchulayi, ndimasunga 100 kwacha iliyonse, kusonyeza kuti ikamata myezi iwiri ine mpamba upanga ndekha ndautani ndaupeza. Komanso taphunzira kuti tizikani masomphenya kuti titachoka moyo uno anathu tizasiya potani. Ine panopo ndi ndi zaka 60 koma ndidakalibe palendi chifukwa kuti ndinalibe masomphenya ndimangokhalira ndayama kusangalala nazo. Koma ndi maphunziro amene wawa ikamata 2 years iyi ndizabweranso muzaone kusintha mosogozedwa ndi mayi Chinsewu maphunziro ndithu talimbikisidwa azimayi.
Thank you, Richard.
Mitzi?
It may be
Okay.
to Mitzi now. For the
Okay, buenos
experience
días.
of Colombia. And
Gracias.
people can connect to the globe where it says interpretation to hear the translation in English. Because Mitzi will be speaking in Spanish.
And
Thank you,
yes,
Richard.
please, just one clarification. If you can go in the Spanish room, because there you will hear the translation in English. So just click on the globe and click on Spanish, and then you will have the English translation. Thank you.
Thank you, Noemi. Mitzi, la
Okay,
escuchamos.
gracias. Buenos días para todos. Este maravilloso programa se implementó en Colombia a través de Agape, la asociación de... Todos los participantes recibieron el módulo 1 de fundamentos y y ellos escogieron el segundo módulo. Unos seleccionaron el bienestar económico, otros de familia, ambiental, personal, diario. Y también nosotros estuvimos probando este material, invitando a los participantes de los grupos de ahorro que tenemos en Colombia. Aproximadamente estuvieron participando 200 grupos de ahorro y estuvieron organizados por comunidad, por barrio. Adicionalmente, también estuvimos implementando el programa en el modelo de graduación que tenemos en la ciudad de Cartagena con 250 familias en extrema pobreza. Y fue interesante porque cuando estábamos planificando el programa, encontramos que este material era exactamente lo que podría ayudarnos para trabajar en las habilidades blandas de los participantes. Algunos de los desafíos que hemos tenido son temas de logística, donde los facilitadores tenían que también llevar los equipos, tenían que preparar los materiales, era un morral pesado en algunos momentos. Entonces todos los desafíos del transporte, el refrigerio, fuimos resolviéndolos poco a poco, comprando equipos más pequeños, portátiles, etcétera, que ayudaron en este proceso. Y también pues enfrentamos la rotación de facilitadores porque algunos de ellos consiguieron un nuevo empleo. Teníamos el personal contratado por horarios, pero en este sentido pues nos dimos cuenta que era importante que ellos también estuvieran con más disponibilidad de tiempo para atender no solamente una capacitación, porque había una conexión con los participantes. Nosotros esperamos en el futuro que este programa de capacitación incorpore en los dos programas importantes que tenemos en cuanto a los servicios a los más pobres, graduación y el programa de grupos de ahorro. Es interesante que algunos participantes de grupos de ahorro, por ejemplo, asistían más a las capacitaciones de caminos al bienestar que a sus reuniones de compra de acciones. Entonces fue realmente un impacto de ver no solamente la parte económica, sino también cuánto interés había en toda la integralidad de las personas, en temas personales, familiares, raíz de los diferentes desafíos que se viven en nuestras comunidades. Entonces, hemos ofrecido esta capacitación para 1,200 personas, 86% mujeres. Esta capacitación ha sido muy bien recibida. Todos están pidiendo que por favor no solamente estemos con dos módulos, que podamos seguir compartiendo todos los 6 módulos con ellos. Ha impactado también la vida de cada facilitador, cada empleado Agape que ha tenido la oportunidad también de recibir capacitación. Quiero que podamos a continuación ver una historia, uno de nuestras sesiones, de la visión y la importancia del propósito en nuestra vida.
I am Feriad Frankston Solomba of Mangomba Village, Tie Kapeni, Blantyre, Malawi. I was employed by the Malawi government as a forest ranger. When I look back during my work days, sometimes I think that it was time wasted. Although I was working, in some days of the month, I used to have no penny. And even my wife was going to sleep a night or two without eating anything. And it was very hard life. I have worked for 23 years and I retired voluntarily in 2009. Some laughed at me when I retired. They thought, you are going to get poor. Why have you retired at your tender age? After that, I was staying in the village just farming. But when Opportunity International came on our way with the leadership of Mrs. Jinseu, he started drilling us on how we can manage our monies and resources. He taught us that we have to prioritize our wishes and vision. So I started saving some monies. I started a mini shop, a grocery. So any single penny that comes in my hand, I use it very profitably. And whenever I make profit, I sit with my wife. And that profit is divided into 3. 1 for my family, 2 for my business, and 3 for my vision. My first vision was to have a good house. In front, I want to have a shop and a hall. The other room is for extension of my grocery shop. The other one is for entertainment. I'm planning to have a good screen, a hall with chairs, and the community here will gather there. You can see my house has got a car room where I think in a short period to come, I will manage to have a car which will help me deliver my goods from town to the shop. I think it's achievable. I worked very hard to extend my business in order to achieve my dreams. In our community, many people don't dream. They think good things will just happen. Even in the Bible, say without vision, people will perish. Many people, when we retire, we think we have done our part. Now we can sit and wait for when the death will come. The retired people are living miserable life. And I said to myself, what can I do with my fellow members? And it came to mind that I have to contact the Opportunity Bank International in order to give some lessons to my fellow pensioners. I used to tell them that when you just live idle, your mind is also idle. but you have to have something to do. And at the end of the day, you will achieve something as I have done. My pension members came here and admire what I have done. That is an achievement. So we have to have vision in order to have bright future. If you ask a Malawian what is driving you backwards, they will answer you, our problem is money. The problem is not having little money, but the way you use your little money. In life, the little money you have is capable of pushing you forward when you use it profitably. And if you use your little money profitably, you are going to achieve your dreams. For anyone to transform in his life, he needs to have vision. As of now, my life is totally transformed because in my family, we can afford to eat what we want to eat. Because I didn't inherit any vision from my parents, I was just working and just spending them anyhow until I retired. I've told my life that this trend of having no vision should end here. From here going forward, I have to put some vision in my children in order for them to have vision in future. Because without vision, there is no development in life. With life, what I am planning to achieve is achievable because of the path I have taken. This path is maintaining my dreams, because if you have a vision, you don't look to the left, you don't look to the right, you just focus on your vision.
Quisiéramos concluir diciendo que las historias como esta han sido lo más poderoso, la herramienta más poderosa en nuestro programa de transformación, que hemos logrado no solamente pensar en los temas, sino que todos estos valores realmente se involucran y sean lo más importante que resalte en la vida de la persona que estamos compartiendo. También está la participación de ellos en que no es una capacitación nuestra, sino que ellos son los protagonistas en el propio desarrollo. Ellos pueden escoger cuáles son los módulos que son más importantes dependiendo de sus circunstancias. Y creemos que con los resultados que hemos tenido hasta el momento, este programa es muy prometedor para todas las organizaciones que, como nosotros, creemos que no solamente es el pero sino que es la integralidad, que es el shalom en la vida de todos los que servimos. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mitzi, and all the presenters for Opportunity International for this beautiful work. It was really great to have the time to dive into it with you. It took us a little bit more time. We have a little bit less than 10 minutes maybe for if some participants have some questions to you. I find it very interesting myself that it's coming from an organization focused on poverty alleviation. So it's not, something that we'll do in parallel, but that you really see the value in terms of, bringing people out of poverty through this empowerment. So that's great. I'm looking for some questions. Otherwise, I will use mine. Maybe if you can tell us, if people are interested in this work, are the materials accessible? Can they partner with you? How can you help them bringing that into their work and projects?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we do want to share this material. The Opportunity Leadership is considering whether there should be some kind of a minimal licensing fee, but it would be just so that we can actually nurture a network of people or international organizations that use it. So there may be a minimal licensing fee, but it would truly be minimal. I think the discussion that they're saying perhaps an organization should pay $300, $400 for use anywhere in the country, or so I don't know the actual decisions being made above me, but there's every intention to share it with other organizations. And of course, if there's enough demand and we are able to come up with funding to develop, there is interest in moving into other languages and other regions of the world as well.
Okay, good. So that's great. So they can, maybe you can share your contact if there are some people interested, and an email. And I understand you may be able to help bring some kind of technical assistance to help people bring that into their work. Is that also possible?
Yeah, partly because the training follows a particular philosophy. We do want a chance to train at least the lead trainers of the organizations, but we're also doing our best to try to simplify that process as well.
Great, thank you. I see Malte as the hand raised, so please go ahead, Malte.
Yes, just very shortly, and thank you so much. So beautiful, you as human beings, your presentation, Enzo, Mitzi, Mary, and Richard, really enriching, and I'm so happy to be here. I have a question because I've seen there are a lot of women participating, Malawi and also in Colombia, but now we have seen a man as an example. Do you feel that women are easier accessible with this kind of curriculum? Is this a general experience that you have?
Mary Pat, maybe you want to speak to the gender issue in this curriculum, and then Richard and Mitzi, both your experience.
Sure. I mean, the curricula is based on a number of stories. So that was just one of the stories. Most of the stories are also women. Because we work through VSLAs and church groups, those groups themselves are mostly women. And so that's, how we do the outreach and how that outreach is successful. Richard or Mitzi, do you want to comment on how the curricula or how the experience is particularly relevant for women?
Yeah, I want to agree with you, Mary. So I think the main thing that I've seen in Malawi is that participation, we have more participation from women, and also especially like working with the savings groups. We work with, like in Malawi, we have about like 70,000 participants in savings groups, and about 90% of those are women. Basically because like most men do not want to participate in that, but as we move on and also addressing some kind of underlying gender parities and gender dynamics, we have seen that now most men are also joining and participating in these interventions. So yeah, we see that a lot of participants are women, but I think as we continue with the benefits and also continuing to make sure that we can work with spouses in other training sessions, we invite the spouse to be part of the training. So with that, we have seen that men are also joining the training, but I think it takes time. But we are in the right direction.
Thank you. On the other hand raised, let me know if there's some more. Myself, I'd like to know a little bit more about the. I have Amui Kwai. But if you can maybe tell us a little bit also, how long does it take? There is 24 sessions. How long take each one, and over what period of time? And then we'll hear from Amui Kwai for last question.
Mary Pat, do you want to touch on that?
You go ahead.
So you saw that there were 7 sections to every lesson or conversation session. We have made it so that if there's an hour and a half, you use all 7 sections. If you have 60 minutes, you use 3 sections. If you only have half an hour, you show the story and have a discussion. So we have made it so that there's flexibility depending on the organization and your touch points with your beneficiaries, your members.
Thank you. So 24 sessions from 1.5 hours to 30 minutes, right?
Yes, and because it's so flexible, if you can gather your clients together for a half a day, maybe you can even run through three or 4 topics in one day, possibly. Of course, we would like to think that if you can spend an hour and a half, that's the ideal for behavior change. But we understand that many organizations have different contexts.
Go. Thank you. Amui, over to you. We just have 2 minutes left. Please go ahead, Amui Kwai.
Okay. Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Please, just a quick one. I want to find out from Opportunity International that can client or participant, can they be able to raise capital from your organization? Or can you help participants to have access to capital? Because I deal with farmers, local farmers or peasant farmers, and one of the challenges that is confronting them is how to have access to capital. So is there any system or modalities that these farmers can stand on in case they want to raise some capital?
Yeah, it's true that Opportunity International traditionally works in that space. However, we did not create this training program to be an advertisement for Opportunity International. We actually tried to get reference to Opportunity International out of the videos, but sometimes we couldn't help it. But we actually were not trying to market Opportunity International here. But to answer to your question, hopefully discussions about finance and personal and household well-being will show at some level how accessing capital will help. And of course, Opportunity only works in key countries. So there may be other partners that in your respective countries you would want to pinpoint.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Genzo, Mitzi, Mary, Richard. It was great to be able to hear you sharing this very inspiring work. So we look forward to, I've seen there are some documents in the chat, and hopefully many of our members will engage with you to bring your materials, this training into their work. And ourselves in CoFSA, we will keep on this collective inquiry on conscious local communities and cultures for regeneration, and look forward for other in-depth sessions after the holidays. So we'll be back probably in September. So thank you very much to you and to you all for being there, and we'll keep exploring this issue together and hopefully collaborating in bringing that into our projects. Thank you all, and have a great afternoon and evening and day.
Thank you all.
Thank
you all for engaging.
Thank you.
Bye,
Gracias.
gracias.
Thank you. Yeah, muchas
Thank you.
gracias. Mitzi.